Hey there YouTube, welcome to another Bolt Action Armies update, and today we are doing French Army update number 2. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to show you, so we'll start straight off with the first selection of items, which is a pack of support teams. All these guys came in one blister from Wall of Games, and we'll start with the boys anti-tank gun team. As you can see, I decided to put one on a cavalry base because one, he was just a tad too long to try and put on a normal base, and with putting it on the longer base you kind of give that long barrel there a little bit more protection, because you've got more base to get hold of to pick them up, and less emphasis on having to go near that barrel. Because I mean, it's not too flimsy, but you know, 2 or 3 bends and it might start to snap off. The other thing, of course, is that you do get a nice, a nice sort of vignette with the extra space around the figure. You can see it's quite a nice figure, pretty basic pose, you know, laying down, taking aim. The actual anti-tank rifle itself is the British Boys, which was attained by France by trade for trading some 25mm anti-tank guns, and the calibre is like .55, so it's kind of just a little above 50 cal, and its penetration value was about 20mm, so as far as sort of anti-tank rifles go, this is probably pretty much the bottom of the barrel. It's not going to, it's going to struggle even with some light armour. But I do actually quite like taking anti-tank gun teams in my armies, especially in my early armies, because they're, at the end of the day, they are a long-range rifle, so you can use them to take pot shots at your opponent's teams that they tend to keep back, so things like spotters and machine gun teams, mortar teams, etc. Plus, of course, you can always pin armour as well. That's always quite useful, and I think for the points, they're generally pretty good. The only thing that kind of a little annoys me about the rules is that some of the more powerful anti-tank guns, things like the Italian anti-tank gun, for instance, the Solthen, fires 20mm shells, which of course would be a lot more effective than a .55 bullet, which this fires, because basically it's just a long-range bolt action rifle, basically. So this is the boys anti-tank team, and I'll give you a bit closer look at the figures. Starting off with the loader. You can see he's quite a nice posed figure. He's got his 2 pouches of extra ammo, which is good. Other than that, he's just in sort of basic French gear. This particular guy is a second class private, and of course he's got his name as per all my French figures. And for the gunner, I believe this guy is, I can't remember what I made him, let's have a look. He is a first class trooper, and he's obviously in charge of the team. And like I say, nice figure, kitted out in basic sort of French gear, and the actual anti-tank rifle on the bipod there. So that is the boys anti-tank rifle team. Let's go for next. We'll go for the sniper team. Here they are. So these guys I've based up to be inside a forest, and I used this rather cool forest flooring, flock I've got. It's really quite cool. You can see, if I bring up the sniper here, very cool figure. He's kind of resting on a log, and I mean, he's kitted out in the basic sort of French gear, and you can see that his on the barrel of his rifle there, when I received him, the barrel was actually missing, It obviously it snapped off, and either I didn't see it or it had actually fallen out before it actually got put into his blister. So I had to sort of come up with a replacement, and ended up using the barrel of a Springfield rifle off one of the American sprues to fill in, mainly because I liked the kind of shortness of it. It made it look a little bit more different, because it's actually a different type of rifle to what the French infantry use. I'll give you some information on it. It's actually a Lunette model 1921 bolt action rifle, and as you can see, again, I bring up the loader, the spotter. You can see he's again quite a cool figure. He's spotting with his pair of binoculars. Other than that, he's in again basic French gear. And again, we have the name. So this guy is a first class trooper, and the sniper is a corporal. Pretty cool. And I used a little bit of plastic putty to kind of look like he's got some kind of camouflage over his scope and the sort of barrel of his rifle. I think he came out pretty cool, and I really do like this forest floor flocking. It kind of looks really cool. And let's just move the camera a little bit to bring them back into shot. So that is the sniper team. Quick and cheerful look at those guys. Finally, for this particular blister pack, we have the light mortar team. So let's bring those guys in. Here we go. And interestingly, the French mortar is the 60mm Brandt MLE 1935, and it was actually the basis of the US 60mm mortar, and it was actually one of the better light mortars of the war. And you can see that this particular team, again, like a really nice team of figures by Warlord, and the mortar was a separate piece with his hands mortared on it, so it was just a simple case of sticking it to his sleeves. And I decided to put them on this larger sort of team base because I wanted to kind of make them look a little bit more picturesque, and of course the fact that even if I mounted them on two cavalry bases, they still kind of looked a little bit too far away to sort of function. And you can see the other thing that I kind of created this sort of situation where they're kind of on the edge of a forest. So you can see like the forest floor, and then sort of in the shade, where it's all sort of dark and shady, and then it's just coming out onto the sort of the green grass of the actual edge of the forest, and you're starting to get flowers, and of course the sort of grassy berm just on the edge of the sort of forest that they're firing out of. I was pretty chuffed with how this particular base came out, and I think overall it came out looking really quite cool. And of course, again, we have the information on the bottom. So we have a corporal and a soldat second class, I believe. I've actually forgot to put the second class on, but he's got the single stripe, so he's soldat second class. And that is the light mortar. Light mortars, of course, quite handy to actually play on the field. A lot of people don't like them because they're not particularly powerful, but they're highly mobile. They can, I think they do. I'm not sure about version 2, but version 1, I think they do two dice worth of damage or something like that. Let's just have a quick look at the rules quickly. Oh, D3 HE. That's not too bad. Certainly good if you want to keep your opponent moving. And of course, if you combine them with a medium mortar, then it's just that little bit of extra pressure to keep your opponent moving or whatever. So that's the light mortar team. Pretty chuffed with them. Let's go for the next thing. The next thing will be the medium artillery piece, which of course to the French army list is your free piece of artillery. You can actually choose between a artillery piece or a anti-tank gun. I decided to of course go for the artillery piece because for some reason I'm not a big fan of anti-tank guns. This is again a Warlord model, very nice, and you can see that I kind of created a sort of fixed position for it. I actually used a piece of green stuff and some stirring sticks from Starbucks to make this little light fortification, and you can see that I also made a wooden floor for it, and it came out really quite cool, quite unique in comparison to all the other artillery pieces I've done, and bearing in mind I've only done 3 I believe, 3 or 4, and I think they came out really cool. You can see the crew. It was quite an easy model to put together. It was I believe 5 pieces, the 2 wheels, the frame, the shield and the gun. Very easy to put together, and I think the only real trouble I had with it was actually seating the firing guy here, because for some reason I couldn't figure out how to get him to seat properly. I still don't think he is actually in there quite correct, but he looks okay from the outside, so I'm not too bothered about that. I think they came out looking quite cool and a little bit unique, and again you can see where it's not supposed to be like wet mud, but you can see where it's been it's been in the mud rather than it's actually that muddy at this particular moment. I kind of did it so that it's, the position itself is kind of dry, but it has been muddied up, and you can see the camouflage came out pretty cool. And this is the try to get some information on it. This is the 75mm 1897 field gun. So quite an old beast, but of course pretty effective, and 4-man crew. And if we are hoping I'll remember to put the names on. Yes, we did. So we have a sergeant, a corporal, and 2 soldat first classes. Pretty cool. Okay, that's the artillery piece. Next up, we have the command packs, or the command pack. I can't remember if this was 1 blister or 2. So basically, let's start with the medic. So here we have the French medic. He hasn't got a massive amount of gear with him. He's literally just got a satchel and a water bottle, and he's got his Red Cross. And this guy is actually a corporal, I believe. Yes, he is. There we go. And he's got, of course, the medical corps stripes and markings on his collar. Pretty basic figure, really. Okay. And next up, the observer or assistant, and he's kind of on a field radio, and you can see the actual radio on the floor there. Quite a cool figure. More or less basic sort of French gear. And this guy, I've actually made him a lieutenant, but he can be used as an assistant as well as an observer. So it's kind of cool. Very nice figure. Next up, we have a couple more kind of assistant figures. So here we have one of the sort of normal infantry NCOs, rank of Sergeant Chef, which is a high-ranking sergeant, and yeah, I mean, he's basically one of the basic sort of NCO figures from the infantry, and he's just basically an assistant to one of the other officers. My actual army is kind of based around 2 platoons, so I've actually got sort of 2 officers and a major, one to command each of the platoons. So let's go for the second assistant. This guy has got a submachine gun, and I've also made him a lieutenant in case I need to substitute another lieutenant and make one of the guys a captain. And he's actually got the French submachine gun. I can't remember the name of it offhand. See if I can quickly look it up. Let's have a look. I'll need this book here. Here we go. Let's bring in the there it is. It is the Mass 38 submachine gun, and it kind of looks a bit odd. As you can see, this book is actually the French Army 1940 by Hysteria and Collections again. One of my favourite reference book brands. And this actual book is number 2. There's actually a 2-book series, and the only way you can get it is actually in French. So you can see the actual text is in French, but it is a very, very good book. I'll do a sort of French reference book video at some point, and go into this book a little bit closer. So let's go back, and this guy, yeah, like I said, was a lieutenant, and you can see he's got his submachine gun pouches there. And other than that, standard sort of French gear. I decided not to give this guy a holster because I'd have to get rid of his machine gun pouches, so decided to keep them. Next up, we have I believe this guy is actually going to be the lieutenant of my 2nd platoon, and he's actually going to be like a Foreign Legion officer. And you can see that this particular guy I kind of slightly modified to make a normal NCO figure into an officer figure. And I basically cut away his ammo pouch there and replaced it with it's actually a Japanese pistol holster from the Japanese sprue, and I think it turned out really cool. Other than that, he's just a sort of a basic infantry trooper. He's got his lieutenant's stripe on his arm, and of course lieutenant. I believe this guy's actually going to be a 1st lieutenant. Actually, I've marked him up as a normal lieutenant. Okay. And finally, the 2 officers, the extra officer figures. We have this guy here, who's destined to be, I believe he's, I've just marked him as a lieutenant, but I think he's going to be my 1st platoon lieutenant. Kind of a basic figure. He's only got a pistol. But again, I was thinking of perhaps modifying another figure, a bit like the other one, and using this guy as a sort of a captain figure, because he is lacking equipment. But you can see he came out pretty cool. I've given him the slightly later field blouse, which is kind of like a very, very dark brown, and you can see he's actually got the markings of a lieutenant rather than a 2nd lieutenant. Came out pretty cool. And it's a shame they've given him a revolver and not one of the rather cool semi-auto pistols that the French had. And finally, we have the major. This major's in my 2nd platoon, and he's actually marked up as a Foreign Legion major. You can see he's got his 4 stripes. and I've given him the slightly earlier field blouse, which is actually a kind of green, though you can't really tell on the camera here. But if you hold both of them together, you can kind of see that his field blouse is just slightly lighter and a little bit more tinged green. I think they came out pretty cool, both these officer figures. And of course, here's a major. Very cool. Okay, that is the command team. And finally, let's get them out of the way. We have the final thing to show you today. That is another unit of infantry, but these guys are actually a unit of Foreign Legion. So let's just bring them in. Okay, let's just move the camera a little bit. Okay, so like I say, this is actually an 11-man unit. How I managed to get the extra guy, I'm not really too sure. I've got a funny feeling that I may have just had an extra guy on the blister. We shall start with the sergeant, and this is basically just one of the basic sort of NCO figures. You may have seen him 2 or 3 times before. Given him his stripes. This is just a basic sergeant, and again he came out pretty cool. He's in standard sort of French gear, and of course he has his name on the bottom of his base. And although you can't really tell on this particular figure because the sergeant stripes are yellow, he would have the green facings on his collar to denote him as Foreign Legion. Next up we go for the corporal. So here we have the corporal, and you can see that this guy has actually got his proper green markings, and you can actually see his collars, so he's got his colour markings too. And this is like really the only way you could tell that they're Foreign Legion, because they obviously used the sort of basic French kit, and of course this would be European kit rather than their sort of desert kit. Pretty cool figure all the same. And of course his name and his rank. Now the only thing I kind of forgot to do with these guys was give them more foreign names, because obviously the Foreign Legion was made up of other nationalities. Particularly I'd imagine a lot of sort of Germans and Spanish. So here we have a soldier or soldat first class. Can't quite see that. There we go. I suppose this guy could kind of pass as a sort of an Eastern European guy. Quite cool operating his bolt. Other than that, pretty standard French gear. And next up, the VB launcher guy. First class soldier. His grenadier badge on his shoulder. The grenade pouch there for holding his launcher. Oh, dropped him. You can actually see an apple on his base there. That's actually from one of my trees. When I was doing some flock on them, and obviously a couple of apples must have fallen off the trees and got scattered, mixed in with the flock. Oh, I forgot to show you his name. This is his name, Amel Laframboise. So this guy's obviously perhaps a rogue French guy who managed to get into the Legion. Next up, let's go for this sort of kneeling guy. Again, pretty standard pose. You may have seen them many times before in other infantry units. Sold out second class. The Foreign Legion markings on his uniform. And the next one, sold out first class again. Anthony Jenkins. This guy's a British guy who went to the Foreign Legion. Pretty cool. And next up we have this guy again, quite a nice pose. Got a moustache. Soldier first class. And this guy's obviously Hispanic. Or Spanish rather. And the standing firing rifle pose. Again, you may have seen this many times in my other infantry units. And he's second class. And 3 more to go. This rather cool running posed guy. And he is first class. And finally, the machine gun team, the first class gunner. In a quite cool kneeling pose. It's actually the first guy in that position I've had. All my other sort of LMG gunners are in the standing pose. And finally, the other unique loader figure. Kind of passing a magazine down, and he is a second class soldier, and quite a cool pose, handing the extra magazine to the gunner, and other than that, just basic gear. And that concludes this particular video. I hope you enjoyed it, and my next update will probably be in a week or two's time. And that will probably more or less finish the army up, and I may well do a grand army update like I normally do. So until next time, catch you later.